Hello there, and welcome to the unusually unserviceable and very hopelessly miscast podcast here, not at GCT. That's my other podcast that I host, but this one is one with my son, Carson.
Hello.
And one that we haven't done in a while, but we actually found out that we have a couple of fans. Isn't that right, Carson?
Yeah, I mean, surprised me.
So they'll remain nameless, but they apparently were listening to us every Sunday, is what I heard.
I think.
It's like,
I thought we were too
really
bad
gotta
to
get
have
a life.
anybody listen to us.
So hopefully they'll keep listening and pass it along to a few others. Because, we don't have a lot of listens from before, but I figured to reach out to our adoring fans, all two of them.
Yeah.
And us, because we like doing it. So.
Yeah. We're our own fans.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you want to hear a podcast about sports and pop culture, this is it. This is the sports and then some. I also do a podcast with a couple of people of a Germantown community theater called the Usually Serviceable and Hopelessly Miscast GCT Pod. So we'll be recording one of those tomorrow, I believe. Today, it's Wednesday night, the 11th. Carson and I are recording. If you ask the wrong person, the election is still not decided yet. I can talk politics on this one all I want. I'm told I can't on the GCT, but
no politics.
Oh, is that your edict?
It's just a better idea.
We're not going to get deep into it, but the election has been decided as far as I'm concerned. I mean, some results I'm happy about, some I'm not, but it's all the same. Anyway, moving on to something much more interesting. Hopefully. So, excuse me for all the throat clearing. Got my drink ready. Carson's got... You got anything?
A drink.
Okay, he's got a Diet Coke.
Another
I got
drink.
something stronger than either one of those. So we're going to talk about some sports headlines, do some NFL discussion, some game match picks, and then do a little love it or flush it pop culture style. That's a feature that I just decided we're going to do.
Yeah,
at
good
least
idea.
For today. So first of all, I just want to get Carson. I want to get your thoughts on some interesting sports headlines that I saw today.
I love headlines.
Yeah, I know you do. You love to react to headlines. It's more like it.
Oh, yeah.
So on ESPN, one of the first headlines is, and it makes me laugh, quite frankly, James Harden, Russell Westbrook concerned about direction of Houston Rockets.
I mean, if they're
because you're on the team, is that why you're concerned?
If they're not concerned, if they weren't concerned about the direction of the team, I'd be concerned for their mind, if they were healthy in their minds, because that team is going nowhere. They have no future, no picks, no cap room, but apparently they do have a future because there are two teams interested in Russell Westbrook and his contract, the Knicks and the Clippers. Both of those teams were reported today. I can't remember the source, but it came out that the Knicks and Clippers are actively pursuing
both
a
dark
disgruntled
abysses.
Russell Westbrook.
Both dark abysses for NBA players.
Now,
One
the Clippers
just
are
makes the
interesting because, first off, where are they going to get the money? Second off, is Westbrook going to be happy with the 5 times he touches the ball?
Well, yes, exactly. If he goes to New York,
it'll be great for
team.
him. New York would be great for him.
I mean, I'm sorry, RJ Barrett, isn't that his name?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, your career will be over, but Russell Westbrook will make sure that, he's touching the ball 47 to 48 minutes. If he goes to the Clippers, I honestly hope that that's true. I hope he goes there because
he won't do
I
anything.
love to see the floppers implode, and they already have.
He would do it.
Oh, I mean...
But the thing is, if they got that team to work, they would be unstoppable.
But that's what people said about last year's team.
Yeah, but also, apparently the one thing that Ty Lue is really good at is massaging egos.
Really, former backup point guard.
Apparently that's what his coaching strength is. That's why he was able to get those Cavaliers teams working. But maybe that would come in handy.
Player named LeBron James.
Yeah.
So next headline, ESPN also. Lamar Jackson says defenses are calling out the Ravens' plays this season because their offense is too predictable.
Is that a shot at Harbaugh?
Either him or the offensive coordinator, who I have no clue who that is. I think it's that Martindale guy.
Okay,
But
but the reason the Ravens offense sucks this year is because Lamar is not good this year. He
he's
can't be
not
blaming it on
good, period.
Harbaugh.
He's not a thrower of the ball. He's a running back. He's a tall running back disguised as a quarterback. They're calling out your plays, Lamar, because you
You do
only
the same
really have
thing.
like four. You have handed off, which is probably your best play.
Well, no. I think the designed QB run is his best play,
Well, for
probably.
him, I'm saying for that team, handing off is probably their best play. Then they have the QB run. Then they have the throw that turns into a run because he
Or an
can't find
interception.
anybody. Or, yeah, he has a throw that generally doesn't turn out well. So at some point, he'll have the, here he is, he's back game where he throws for 306 and three touchdowns and
Yeah.
one
See,
pick.
I'd rather have Tannehill any day of the week. I don't know why it's
Well,
a
he's an actual
hot take.
quarterback.
I don't know why it's a hot take to say that Tannehill is a top 5 quarterback in the league. It shouldn't be. Tannehill has played like a top 5 quarterback this year.
Did you fart? Something smells in here.
No.
Okay, I was just asking. Because I know I didn't. I would claim it. Anyway, so yeah, I agree. He's a quarterback. The only knock I have with Tannehill is I wish he would run slightly more,
He's pretty fast.
but he always has a collapsing pocket, so I see why he
Yeah.
doesn't run a lot.
Well, I mean, the reason he had that really bad intentional grounding call that lost the game against the Steelers was because the pocket collapsed in .5 seconds. But
Was that due to the Magic Messiah in Pittsburgh, Robert Spillane?
my God, Robert Spillane, I could talk for an hour about this guy.
I mean, forget Devin Bush.
He single-handedly stopped Derrick Henry, which makes him,
Yeah, 25%.
which even he didn't really
true.
stop him single-handedly, but he did though, according to
He plugged that hole, baby.
the Steelers homers who were on
And then the
CBS
next week had a
or
pick
whatever.
six against the Ravens. They're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, Robert Spillane.
Yeah, Spillane
my inner
did
Joe
stop.
Tessitore was
Spillane
yelling
was
about
the
it.
main stopper at Henry on the goal line, but he hurt his collarbone because Henry trucked right into him.
Yeah, Bobby Spillane. Oh my God. Yeah. So, moving
Robert
on.
Spillane.
Next headline from CBS Sports. You okay there?
Yeah,
Okay. He got up for a second, so I'm kind of stalling.
I'm ready.
Isaiah Thomas ranks Michael Jordan as the, wait for it, fifth toughest player he's faced ever. His quote was, "I was dominant over him," unquote. I just, words escape me sometimes. And, I mean,
Oh man.
all politics aside, I mean, Isaiah, you had many years there in management when you were just abysmal, and we counted on bad quotes from you. You came out of it for a few years,
And
and you had
this one might be the worst yet.
FIU or Florida Atlantic, wherever you coached basketball in college, and the guy called you Isaiah Thompson moment. But to come out and say that, I mean, you're either just trying to piss Michael off, or you're just stupid, or both.
Both.
I mean,
He's always been trying. He's always been trying to piss Michael Jordan off, and they showed that in the Last Dance.
Yeah.
Where I mean,
That's what I say, especially after the Last Dance. I mean, we're not that far removed from it. To say he was the fifth toughest player, I didn't look at the 1 through 4 who he said.
I mean, who would he even put?
If you want to say there's one,
Did
like,
he play
oh
Kareem?
well, yeah, I mean he played against
But he
Kareem.
wouldn't
I
have
think
been
at the tail
guarding
end of Kareem's
Kareem.
career. Well, so the way I look at it is this: if he came out and said, "Look, he was the second toughest player I ever faced," and I'm just
Yeah,
making
because it's all
this
about
up.
matchups.
Well, I'm not. I'm making this up. What if he came out and said, "Well, the toughest guy I ever faced was Gary Payton"? I can understand if there's one player ahead of Jordan because he says, "Look, that guy always ate my lunch. He was so tough I couldn't face him."
Well, it's
But
all,
to
it's all
say
about
that there's four
matchups.
people
Yeah.
ahead of Jordan, no.
Yeah, maybe you say one because this guy had a better matchup on you. Like you said, if he were to come out and say Gary Payton, or he said like Clyde the Glide, or somebody was his toughest person
Yeah.
that he specifically ever had to face against, then it would be understandable.
Yes, I agree. So, final headline I got from Jim Slater at Yahoo Sports, and this just made me laugh. So, every year, if you're not aware, the winner of the Masters, which is usually held in April, second weekend of April, I believe, um, is it's tradition for the winner of the Masters the previous year and all of the previous champions who were there or decided to show up who aren't playing but they can come, they have a Masters Champions dinner. And the previous year's winner picks the menu. So, headline reads Tiger Woods opened his heart to fellow Green Jacket winners while serving sushi and fajitas at the Masters Champions dinner.
You picked sushis and who won it?
Sushi and fajitas.
So who picked that?
Tiger Woods did. He won last year.
He won last year?
Yeah, it technically was a year and a half ago this time because of COVID, but it does seem like eons ago because of everything we've gone through. But
well, I didn't even think he had won a major.
And fajitas.
That's such a
together.
terrible menu.
I just can't. I mean, it's like, hey, everybody, I picked Fruit Loops and pork chops.
Yeah,
that's our champions dinner for everybody. Yeah. Enjoy, everybody. Let's tuck in,
guys. We could get one of the best chefs in the world, to come to this Masters dinner, and I just really had to pick sushi and fajitas.
I mean, hey, if you're into sushi, which I'm not, I mean, sushi eaters, who doesn't love a good dragon roll or California roll? But do you want to eat it on the plate next to your, Chipotle steak fajita that you have sitting there? Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a cross-culture thing, I guess.
I mean, sushi doesn't really mash with any other food, though, because it's raw.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. So, I just thought you'd get a kick out of that one. Because you have food you like and food you vehemently don't.
At least pick, burgers or something.
Right.
Because you could probably get really good burgers. That's such a waste. If I was one of the other Masters people there, and they told me that the menu was going to be fajitas and sushi at the Masters dinner,
you'd be loading up on fajitas.
Or I'd just be eating before.
Well, yeah,
going because I'd still want to go. I'd still want to go to converse with the other Masters winners because I'm sure they're very interesting people.
Sure,
but.
So let's move on to Carson's got some NFL notes he's going to throw out at us.
Okay. First off, I just want to say that the Jets are terrible, and
what? The Jets?
I mean, they almost beat the Patriots.
Jets.
If it weren't for Jacoby Myers, the Patriots would have lost that game.
Cam Newton's new love interest, apparently.
Yeah. Okay, now the question I want to ask you is Lawrence worth it? Is Trevor Lawrence worth it? Will he turn around the Jets if they were to draft him? Okay, first off, should they draft him? And if they draft him, will he be the one to turn the franchise around?
No and no. What they should do, which almost in my experience, I would say this. At least 2/3 of teams that ever get the number one pick should trade out of it. They should find a willing trade partner to do, to basically say, we want Trevor Lawrence. We'll throw the kitchen sink at you and a bag of donuts. So here's 2 first rounders.
You should only be taking the first overall pick if you only have 1 or 2 needs.
Well, yeah, I mean, in that case, you'd be a team who got it by trade.
But the Jets have so many needs.
That's what I say.
They have to. It's like what the Titans did a couple years ago when they could have taken Goff or Wentz,
and we traded out of it.
And it was very worth it because we ended up getting multiple pieces for the team.
Yes, I agree. And most teams should not keep the number one pick. Most teams shouldn't keep the top 3 picks. That's my feeling. But unless it's a year that you have someone like a Peyton Manning, which even the year he came out. I can remember there was a huge debate between him and Ryan Leaf. And a lot of people were picking Ryan Leaf because their college careers were both very impressive. Of course, hindsight's 20/20, but, I mean, I remember a lot of people saying, well, Manning, he's good. Nobody said he sucked, but they said Leaf has got a higher ceiling.
I think a better comparison for a year where you need to take the first pick is the Andrew Luck year because he was the bona fide.
Right.
This is the guy who's going to turn franchise around, and to be fair, he did for a couple years. Now the next question is, I guess, are you a Sam Darnold supporter? Do you believe that he can be a at least good quarterback? Now, what I would rank good as
Yeah, it was like, how do you
is
define good?
like a Jimmy Garoppolo. Even if they're not the guy, they can still make plays, and then they can pitch in when they need to as the quarterback.
Well, it's results based business. What do you define as a good year for a team?
I mean, at least make the
Playoff berth,
playoffs.
500.
So, do you think that Sam Darnold? This is a better question. Do you think Sam Darnold is a playoff caliber quarterback, a guy who can take a team at least go 500 and
Well,
then make the playoffs?
this may be a cop out answer, but I'd say it's incomplete. I think he's had a mix of injuries, and his coaching staffs have been
and
abominable,
terrible offensive
horrible
line.
Yeah, I mean,
not
I don't
great
think you
receivers.
can judge that yet.
I personally am a Sam Darnold supporter. I think that he could really be something if given the right opportunity, but I think the Jets need to trade him because the Jets are not the right place for him. The Jets need a more polished quarterback, Trevor Lawrence probably. And Sam Darnold, I mean, when Sam Darnold came out, everybody knew he was the project quarterback that year, him and Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Of course, Lamar Jackson was just something different than Sam Darnold, but I think that Sam Darnold could be really good, and he just needs to get out of New York. And I think that they should trade back and take a different quarterback. I don't know which one, but
How far back though? How far back can you still get a good quarterback?
I don't know.
I mean, you can't go far back and
Because
get a Justin Fields or something like that.
There's three quarterbacks who people think could be superstars. There's obviously Trevor Lawrence, there's Justin Fields, and there's Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. And I think that all those guys could go in the top 10. But if the Jets trade the number 1 pick down to, say, number 8, they could still probably get another first rounder or another second rounder out of that.
I mean, personally, if I'm the Jets, if somebody came at me and said, hey, we'll give you 3 first rounders and a third rounder and cash, and we're like a mid-range team, so your pick this year at least is going to be in the teens. I would take that because I would say, okay, I'd rather have that because I'm incomplete on Darnold. And I'd rather take those picks and say,
Yeah.
I'm going to go heavy on lines. I'm going to draft the offensive line and defensive line, and I'm going to start dominating the line of scrimmage.
I've never understood why teams draft quarterbacks first. That doesn't make any sense because really, if you put a young quarterback in a really bad situation with nobody else on the team, they're not going to get any better unless they're just special. But I honestly think the best way to start your team is taking defensive line or offensive line.
Yeah.
Because if you have an offensive line, they can guard your young quarterback. And if you have a defensive line, you're at least putting pressure on the other team because, yeah, you can build secondary. But honestly, I feel like it's a lot harder to draft secondary than it is defensive line. So, because a lot of the time when you see a guy who looks like a stud defensive lineman, he's going to be a stud defensive lineman.
Yeah, I think it's easier to miss on secondary players.
Like Myles Garrett, I mean, even guys like Chase Young and Quinnen Williams. I mean,
yeah, Chase Young's he's gonna continue to be awesome.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he went to Ohio State though. So
yeah, and now he's with the Washington professional football team,
the Deadskins.
Yeah. So, what do we got next?
All right. Next question is: which teams do you think are fakes? And which teams do you think could pick up?
How much time you got, buddy?
Yeah. So let's talk about the Bears first.
Fake. Clearly a fake.
I mean,
whoever lost the game between them and Tennessee, and obviously we're Titans fans. If the Tennessee had lost, I would say they're the fake. The Bears are fake.
But we showed that their offense just doesn't work.
Their offense is horrible.
It just doesn't work.
It made our defense look passable.
They don't have a good running back, and Nick Foles is. I mean, he's serviceable.
But he's a statue back there.
Yeah.
And against teams that have even 0.2% of a pass rush, which we have 0, he's going to get nailed just all the time because he can't move. and so that's part of his problem.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I mean, I don't know that they'd be doing any worse if they just put Trubisky back in. I mean, at least
Yeah, at
he can
least
run
give the young
around.
guy, at least give the younger guy some reps, even if
But
he's not been
he's
good.
apparently pissed Nagy off so bad that he's like, no, I'm done with him.
Which is
So,
dumb. If you take a guy second overall, you at least give him 3 or 4 years.
I'm not a big Trubisky believer. I'm not a Trubisky truther, but
I'm not either.
I
I
would
don't
be
like
interested to
Trubisky.
see if he ended up with another team to see, okay, does he have any chops whatsoever? I mean, because
I mean, send him to the Patriots. See what he does there. He's the Bill Belichick kind of quarterback.
well, Belichick's got Cam Newton right now, and they're still 3-5,
Yeah.
barely beating the Jets with
All
Joe
right.
Flacid.
The
So
next team now, the Panthers are 3-6, but they've looked good at times throughout the season.
I'd trust them before I trust the Bears.
Do
The
you
Bears have
think that the
5-4
Panthers? Do you think the Bears are 5-4? The Panthers are 3-6. Do you think the Panthers can sneak into the playoffs?
with 7 teams this year. I think they can. I don't think they will.
Yeah.
The NFC is pretty wide open though.
I mean, Teddy Two Gloves is gonna have to really pick it up. He's had some really good plays and he's had some really really bad plays.
well, when you had McCaffrey out, I mean, what's his name? Mike. What's his last name that they had in place of McCaffrey?
Mike
Davis.
Davis,
Yeah.
he was actually
I
pretty
mean,
good.
he
the
was
Panthers
he was a good running.
the Panthers have a decent offensive line. That's part of why their offense is working
But
right
you
now.
saw the difference with McCaffrey out there when they played Kansas City. They should have beat Kansas City. I mean, they should have beat New Orleans when they played them, but they had some bad luck there too. But so I think they could easily. That's why I don't think they're frauds because they could easily be 5-4.
Yeah, they just
So
got unlucky.
I'd trust them before I trust the Bears. I don't think either team is going to make the playoffs.
All right,
But
the next team is the Raiders of Las Vegas. I believe they're 5-4 right now.
yeah, I mean they're
They've been good.
hovering at 500.
They are the one team to beat the Chiefs this year.
Aside from not ever wearing masks, um, that they don't seem to do. And
They've been
Josh Gruden's
impressive,
been
actually.
testing that. I think they could be a playoff team.
Josh Jacobs has been good. I mean, they have a good. Their receiver core is actually very deep, even if they don't have a number one. It's actually just very depth heavy, and also,
Well, it's young too.
yeah, their defense is decent. They're just a very young team. It seems like they have
They've
a little
got
bit of
some
grit.
pieces. They seem a little bit, at times, especially on defense, they seem a little bit like misfit toys put together.
Yeah.
So I think it will take, again, especially on defense, I think that's where they should focus their efforts in the offseason. Whatever happens to them,
Now,
if they could find a glue person or 2 glue people,
yeah, they need a secondary. Their defensive line is
in the
actually
D,
their defensive line is actually good and young because they have Cleveland Farrell, first round pick. They've got crap.
which was considered a reach.
Yeah, who's actually been decent. They have Mo Hurst, who's young. And then they also have what's his name? Max Crosby has actually been
Yeah.
decent too, and he was a 7th round pick.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching him on Hard Knocks because they were on Hard Knocks the year he was drafted. So
Well, that's what I say. I mean, I think that if they could find another
yeah,
a glue guy as like a middle linebacker, I would say like a Brian Urlacher type,
yeah.
who's like,
They
all
just
right,
need-
here's the deal,
They
guys.
just need that guy who's gonna be the guy who leads the defense.
'Cause
I
on
feel like they don't
offense,
have that right now.
on offense, I mean, Gruden's going to want to air it,
Yeah,
and the Raiders are known for that over the years, but
but Derek Carr's actually
they
been
should be
decent
more
this year.
they should be more like what they are right now, which I'm just afraid that when if they get the defense going even better, which it's good, but if they get a defense where they can start holding teams to 14 points a game, 17 points a game, then Gruden will want to start airing it out,
Yeah.
and Carr's not that guy.
So do you think
Neither
the Raiders
is
could make the
Mark
playoffs?
Mariota. Yeah, I think they can. I think the AFC is going to be tougher for them
Yeah.
to make the playoffs than the
Well,
NFC.
and then
would
that
be.
leads to another team that's 5-4, the Cleveland Browns.
Nah,
Playoffs
slaw.
or no?
No.
So they're
I'd say
fake.
if I had to pick the two, I'd say the Raiders will make the playoffs.
I
I
agree,
think the
but I
Browns
think
are.
that the Browns' defense is better. But I just the Browns seem to be relying. Obviously, the Titans are this too, but they rely a lot on the run game. And I mean, because Baker's been okay at times, he's been serviceable, like for what they need him to be this year with their two running back set. And I don't know. I just think they're decent enough to maybe make the playoffs
Oh well,
at
they
this point.
can, but I mean, look at the division they play in, and they still have at least 3 or 4 division games left. They'll still have to play Pittsburgh one more time. They have to play Baltimore another time, and Cincinnati is they're not a pushover.
Cincinnati is actually impressive
I
too. I mean, they
mean,
beat the friggin'
they're
Titans.
they're not. You're not going to blow Cincinnati out. Even if you beat them, you're not going to beat them. If you're Cleveland, you're not going to beat them 38-10.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to nail bite them. You're going to beat them 35-31 because Burrow's not going to give up, and they have receivers and they have somewhat of a defense too. Anyway, so Cleveland I think is a tougher path. I mean, if you're the Raiders, I mean the Chargers can be frisky, but they
Well, the
tend to
Raiders
always
the
choke.
Raiders have already won their toughest game of the season with the Chiefs.
Well, right. But
So,
that's what I say. The only team they have to overcome in their division is the Chiefs. I
and
mean,
they've
the
already beat them one
Broncos,
time.
the Broncos, and the Chargers. Nah, nah.
All right, here's the final team on fake or make the playoffs.
Okay.
The Dolphins,
Well, I think they make the playoffs.
because they are
They could win that
five.
division.
They are 5-3 right now. I think
Yeah,
5-3
they're
or
one
five
game
and
behind
four.
Buffalo.
They've actually been Buffalo's 7-2 now.
Oh yeah,
So
that's
they're not.
right.
I,
So, yeah,
I
they're
think
2
Buffalo's going to
games.
win that division, but I think Miami. They're another young team that just seems to have a lot of like grit, and Brian Flores just seems like a really good coach. I think that's also part of it, and he's just one of those Belichick guys who's actually good, like Vrabel.
I mean, I'm
And
I'm still not 100% sold on Buffalo, but I
yeah,
think
Buffalo
they can
doesn't
win the
impress me.
division.
They seem like a first round elimination kind of
Miami's going to
team.
push them. So
Yeah, I think Buffalo's a first round elimination kind of team.
yeah,
But I think
they'll be like the 3, and Tennessee will be the 4.
Miami is the kind of team that they just kind of surprise you because everyone thought they were going to have to go through another year but of rebuilding, but they also have they just have pieces around the whole place. Plus they have a lot of draft picks because of Minka Fitzpatrick.
Well, see, and I've never been. I mean, from his college days, I was never a huge Tua guy. I hope he proves me wrong. I mean, I like his story, but I I think that it's way too early to be judging and saying, well, he's the
Well, but
guy.
I don't think he's the reason that they're winning. Really,
Oh, I agree.
I think it's Devontae Parker finally being that guy. I think it's. I also think Miles Gaskin has been ridiculously good for what he. I mean, he was like an undrafted running back, I think, or he was like late round, and he just come out of nowhere, and he's just their number one running back now. He's been really good. Also, Mike Gesicki is good too. So
Yeah.
they have a lot of threats on offense. So I think Tua honestly had a really good place to go to he could just slot in, he just has to move the offense along. So,
I agree.
but I think the Dolphins will make the playoffs somehow. But
Okay. Good NFL notes. Um, so it's time to move on to the next feature, which this one is it's near and dear to my heart, uh, especially since I could start doing this legally in the state of Tennessee on the 1st of November. It's time for savory, irresponsible betting lines for the next round of events. Odds courtesy of DraftKings Online Sportsbook, at least as of 2-3 hours ago. So I'm going to give you some things that I picked, and you tell me what you think. So I'm not calling anything a lock of the week. I don't do that. I pick based off of what I see, but nothing's a lock because especially this last weekend when I did okay on college football and then the NFL took a dump on my head. I was like, thanks guys. Not a single, parlay that I had hit. Thanks to nobody being able to cover the spread. So I'll do NFL picks when we record later this week or this weekend.
all right,
College football. Here's a couple games. Florida is at home against Arkansas this week. Florida is a 17.5-point favorite.
Are they ranked?
Florida?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
What's their
They're like
ranking?
number 5.
Oh.
They just housed Georgia in the whatever's the largest cocktail party in the world or whatever they call it. Bullshit. So, and I'm not bleeping that. So Florida's minus 17.5 against Arkansas at home. I'm taking the road dog. I'm taking the Razorbacks and the points on the road because Felipe Franks was the quarterback eons ago in Florida. He sort of kind of is going to stick it to him. I don't think Arkansas is going to win outright, but I think that they're going to cover.
17.5? Yeah, that's
I mean, Florida's really good, but
that's,
coming off of that big win they just had.
That's 3 possessions. I mean,
yeah.
2 touchdowns and a field goal is a lot.
And that still wouldn't cover.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the points. Or I took the points. I already bet it. So here's another one. And I normally don't go for big spread games, but these two just stood out to me. Cincinnati, who I, hate, they beat the Tigers this year, even though we, showed them who daddy was twice in a row last year in Memphis. Cincinnati is at home against the lowly Pirates of East Carolina.
Ooh.
Cincinnati is a 27.5-point favorite.
Ooh.
So I'm laying the points, taking Cincy at home. I think it's a blowout. I think the final score is something like
4 touchdowns,
63-7.
See, but if it was like 29.5, I would take ECU.
No, I wouldn't either. It would have to get in the 30s for me. I think it's going to be. You're going to look at the ticker, and 4 minutes left in the first quarter. It's going to be, look, East Carolina is up 7-3, and then the finals. They're going to have 10 points.
But with 27.5, that's only 4 touchdowns only. But if you add an extra 2 points to that, then they're having to get the ball back again and score again.
Right. Well, I take it as a good bet, I think. So now let's move on to the Masters because that's what's going on at Augusta.
Sure is.
So I always have to bet golf majors if I can. So I got 2. I love to take flyer bets. I call them high return, low money, low dollar bets that probably aren't going to hit, but if you do hit them, they're good value. They're great value. So you can bet of all the players who's going to lead after round 1 tomorrow at the Masters. I have 2 picks both at plus 4,500 on a dollar.
Is Scotty Scheffler?
Scotty Scheffler is one of them. So, because I love Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
Ian Baker Finch loves saying that name. And Xander Schauffele, he loves saying that over at 14. So, and the other guy I'm taking is Matthew Fitzpatrick at plus 4,500. I like the young ones because a lot of times in majors they storm out to a first day lead and then they fizzle, like a slow gin fizz.
Not Jordan Spieth. He just sits in the back the whole time.
No, he just misses the cut.
Yeah.
So,
he makes me so angry.
Speaking of missing the cut, so I looked at all the odds of all the guys who were plus 250 or more to miss the cut after Friday. So if you don't know what the cut means, I'm not explaining it to you, but they're not playing on the weekend. So my best value bet there was I took at plus 275. I took Colin Morikawa, the PGA champion.
Really, you think he'll get cut after day 1?
No, after day 2.
Oh, well, a day 2 cut is a lot more likely than a day 1 cut.
Well, they don't cut on day 1.
I thought they do.
No, it's day 2. Let me explain all this to you off mic. But no, that basically means he would not be in the top 70 and ties after Friday.
I mean, that's unlikely, but very possible. He is.
I mean, I put like a $2 bet. So, again, higher value. Final bet that I laid already tomorrow. We have the U.S. men's national soccer team is back in action in an international friendly against Wales tomorrow.
To lose.
Now, one thing that friend of the podcast and contributor on the GCT podcast, Brian, Uncle Brian as we call him, he's gotten me more into soccer. And so one of the things we looked at earlier this week is the U.S. men's team roster because he has a huge disdain, and I don't know the guy's first name, but for Zardes. He was like billed as the top star of the U.S. program
No,
over the
that's
last few
Pulisic.
years. Yeah, well, Pulisic is.
Pulisic
I think
is
he's
the
he and
the
McKinney.
savior.
He and McKinney are the two stars.
Well,
of
Matt
that.
Miazga is pretty good too.
Yeah, but we looked at the rosters and they're playing in Europe for this friendly, and then they're going to Austria to play against Panama for some reason.
Where are they going?
I don't know, but anyway, uh, we figured. I don't know if we confirmed this, but Brian started going through the names of people, and we have our man Gio Reyna from Dortmund, and McKinney. Weston McKinney's on there, Pulisic's on there, who, of course, Berhalter, the manager, says, well, he's not healthy. But Pulisic came out and said, no, I'm day to day, guys. So he wants to play. I bet the odds are Berhalter doesn't play him tomorrow. All that said,
because he knows we're going to lose to Wales anyway.
well, if you look at the odds, nobody's a favorite. Nobody's a minus in that game. Wales is the favorite at a plus 145. The U.S. team was a plus 210. I split it down the middle and took the draw at plus 215. Bang. So laid like $5 on that one.
Is Gareth Bale
Because
playing?
I feel the draw coming on. I have no idea.
Because if Gareth Bale's playing, then the U.S. is probably losing.
I will be watching tomorrow, and I will be saying
Why are they playing
I'm
on a
fine
Thursday?
with a 1-1 draw. This is international week. Like all the main leagues, Bundesliga, all of them, Premier, they're all off this week and next week, I believe. Because I know for Dortmund, the next league match is November 21st. So those are the irresponsible bets for this podcast. I'll have more when we record
Don't
again.
Bet illegally, everybody.
NFL.
Only bet legally.
Which basically means don't be too young and bet. So in Tennessee, at least. So now we move on to our next feature, which I'm calling Love It or Flush It. And we do have sound effects for this. No, they'll be added in later. You don't know what they are.
I can add them in by myself.
I pre-recorded some of these. So we're getting a little pop culture here. Don't kick my foot.
Move your foot then.
Arsehole.
Not nice.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm not a nice person. You know that about me. So I'm going to ask you a topic, and you just simply say you love it or flush it, and quickly why. So
okay.
I went all over the board with these.
Did you put Bayformers on there?
No, Bayformers is not in there.
That's
I
a
know
flush, baby.
Don't say that. I have to hit that sound. Number one.
You're gonna have to hit it 4
When
times.
Shut your ass. All right. That's for you, Colby. So me telling him to shut his ass. So there are lots of lasting musical acts in this world, and some of them get by with they have a sound, they have a shtick, and that's what they go with their whole career, and that's fine. Love it or flush it. Musical acts that change up their sound with every album.
Love it.
Okay.
It depends on who it is, though. Some people. If you
do you love it more or flush it more? You're saying
I love it more because then it stays fresh. As long as they stay true to themselves, because obviously they're gonna change things. As long as they don't change like the base of what they are and who they are, like the band. As long as they're not changing from like one genre completely to another.
Right.
But like
bands like
Coldplay, they obviously changed from like Parachutes to like Milo Xyloto. And it was a good change. But then after that, they started changing into...
Well, they changed in between that, too.
Yeah.
I mean, Viva La Vida.
Well, yeah, I mean, all their albums are pretty much
a very
different.
arty album. No, I agree with you. I mean, and people who know me know that I'm a huge Rush fan. Carson, I took him to see their last tour.
When they
Rest
changed
in peace,
a lot.
Neil. And over the years, they changed
I mean,
a lot.
their older stuff is a lot heavier, like a lot more like
Well, then they go
hard
back
rock.
to heavy
Yeah.
later on. And
Well, but
There
then
are
in
people
like
who,
the early '80s, they were going softer
well,
stuff.
they went synth and they went art rock for a while, and I mean they did all kinds of things. They went anthematic type sound, and there's a lot of people who just like certain, you know, times in time periods of Rush. I dig it all. There are some I dig more than others, but I dig it all. I like bands and music acts, solos as well, that change up their sound with
Now,
every
some
album.
people don't need to change because they're already so diverse in their sound. Like Nothing But Thieves, their original album is a lot like their third album that they just released. There because they vary so well between each song, even if it's on the same album. Because they'll have one song that's like a full on like anthem, like it's an arena rocking anthem, and then they'll have a song that's just like very soft, a really soft ballad that just moves. And so they don't really need to change between every album because they're changing within every song.
Right.
So
So, next question. So, I'm a huge student of movies, have been since I was young. There wasn't a whole lot to do when I was a kid other than that. TV was not great like it is now. But I've always had a strong feeling about this that when you get a successful movie and it turns into a franchise, and I'm going to say I'm going to extract like the Marvel franchise and
yeah,
stuff
because
like
that's
that,
different. The
and
sequels
DC,
are
because those are like those are like their own beast. I mean, because those are based off of a canon. You know, they're based off of something that was created before the movies were around. So you have a lot of source material to operate
so
off
it's a
of.
lot easier to make a good
Yes.
sequel.
So I'm referring to movies that are not like in that specific type thing. So movies that so and by when I ask this question, let me explain it. Movies that go past number two. And what I mean is movies you have like here's the first movie, and now we have a sequel. And now we have another sequel. So we have part three. So movies that go past the second movie or the first sequel, if you will. So, like an example that always sticks out in my head is, or a couple of examples, Lethal Weapon. The first Lethal Weapon movie was considered really, I won't say cutting edge, but it was like a buddy cop movie. It was very different, and it had, you know, it was not the first buddy cop movie for sure, but it was a very big one. Mel Gibson was a huge star, all that stuff. The second one, I always thought was the best one, and it because it was edgier and same cast of characters, and the story was just stronger even. So the first one wasn't bad. Just the second one was so great. Then the third one, it's good. It's not the first or second one, and the fourth one, saw it once. That's fine. So that another example in my mind, and this one kind of stands out even more. Beverly Hills Cop. First one was great. Second one was great. Totally different director. You can tell it's a Tony Scott movie versus the first one is a Martin Brest film. The third one was just absolutely tremendously bad. So bad. I remember people telling me don't watch it. And I'm like, I have to see it. No, I didn't. I can't get those 105 minutes back. I just can't. So now that I've
So do you want me
done this
to
whole bullshit rant about that, movies that go past number two for you.
love it? Because
Oh, you do?
usually, if a movie
Even Bayformers?
that doesn't count, usually if I don't like a movie's sequel, I didn't like its original.
Oh,
I
true.
very much like continuations, and see, and as but this question was even easier for me to answer because I recently watched an entire trilogy where the movies, in my opinion, stayed the same quality throughout. Because I got very bored one day last week,
Oh.
and I watched all three of the Ocean's movies in
Oh,
the
you did
same
watch them
day,
all.
three of them, and I
Okay.
think that they maintain the same quality throughout each one.
Well, it's interesting
Honestly,
you bring those up.
the second one is the worst one in my opinion,
Well, and
and
that
the
was
third one is my
generally
favorite.
the second one was generally viewed as panned when it came out, and this is before the third one. A lot of people have gone back and watched the second one again, which I did a few months ago, and have said it's underappreciated. I think it was better going back and watching it again years later. It had such high expectations, and it was a very different version of the same story.
Yeah, well,
So
I
I
mean,
think it just kind of took a lot of people by
I like some of
surprise.
the interesting things they did, like with Rusty's relationship with the girl who was the cop, and then her
Yeah.
dad is actually the master thief, and then they have the guy who gets introduced, who's like the king or the prince or whatever.
I mean, the first one was so great, and it was so. I mean, everybody watched it. The third one I have come to, I think, like at least as much as the first one. And I'll tell you why. The main reason is because, and this is where the second one loses me, is that, and this is not a shot at women at all, but the third one has no romantic complications. There's no, I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
even say it. It's not their fight. They say that like a few times in the beginning. And they're like, did she understand? It's not their fight. You never have to deal with, oh, there's this romantic thing going on and we have to deal with that. That's to me, at times in the first one made it drag slightly. The second one made it drag more.
The
The third
second
one
one,
didn't have it.
the second
So,
one very much confused me with the Julia Roberts being Julia Roberts
yeah,
thing.
that's what I said. I
I
think they
was
were
so
reaching too far for that
genuinely
one.
confused because they mentioned it earlier in the movie because Matt Damon's character is like,
They're like, don't tell her.
Tess looks like, and they're like, don't say it, and I'm like, she looks like who? I'm like, I was like, in my brain, I was like, there's no way they're about to say that Julia Roberts looks like
Yes.
Julia Roberts, and then they're just like, okay, we're gonna do it
I,
anyway.
I just think the second one got too
I was so
freeform.
genuinely confused at what was happening. I was like, okay, so she's Julia Roberts playing Julia Roberts,
I
right?
will say the second
Right.
one, the last 10, 15 minutes, I will watch that part over and over. Just because it's so interesting to me to watch Tallulah go through the laser field and
And then find out that he
to
got
watch
beat.
and the scene that and the scene where they stage the whole Yankee Red Sox thing on the train is so funny to me.
Oh yeah.
Watching them fight it out and throw
And then
hats and
Damon steals the
it is
backpack and they get off.
it is so funny to me because it's like,
Well, I
okay,
love movies that also explain themselves after, and so you don't really understand what's happening until the end, and then you're like, oh, everything makes sense now, like with the whole train
yeah.
station and the arsenal bags and all
Well, at
that
the
kind of
very
stuff.
end too, when they right before the credits and they all show up to have their big party afterwards. I find that pretty funny too because that is exactly the kind of thing I would want to do if I had pulled a big job like that. Is bring everybody together and let's have a big. We're gonna play cards and drink and
Yeah.
eat a big bunch of seafood towers and hang out one night. I think that's so real people
Well, and then
would
also
be that
just
way.
Bruce Willis just shows up playing himself. Also, it just
It's yeah. Second one's just kind of strange.
but it works in some
Well, the
strange
third one also
sense.
uses Eddie Izzard in a much better capacity as Roman, and they have Al Pacino, who just is always being Al Pacino, and it's yeah. I like
That is a
watching the
great
third one.
Al Pacino character. Just
Yeah, it's
well,
typical him.
and then crap, Don Cheadle is. I
Yeah,
mean, he's. I mean, they they
playing
use him.
Fender Rhodes.
Yeah, they use him just even better. Like in the third one, also like just when he comes in the Daredevil suit, that whole scene is
Yeah.
great exchange between those two.
So moving on, and I know where I feel about this one because we discussed this on the GCT one, and it was a mixed bag. I think I know how you're gonna feel.
Is it
So
Bayformers?
no, it's not Bayformer. Stop asking that.
Oh,
I'm
quit
not bringing
talking
that
about that.
up.
You brought it up earlier.
I'm not bringing it up again on the pod. Broadway musicals that are made into movies. I'm already
Flush
playing
it.
my sound effect. Yep. Click, click, click. Sound effect.
Because they can either be really good or really, really bad.
Very rarely good.
Yeah, but they can be.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is they can be.
Or they can be cats.
Well, Cats, I think the musical is terrible too, though.
Well, I
so.
hate cats anyway, but
And
yeah,
when Hamilton
Brian subjected us to that Cats movie thing,
and when Hamilton
oh my
inevitably gets turned into a movie, I'm not gonna go see it because I hate the musical too. So
God. Yeah, I mean, the Phantom movie was so bad.
I've never even seen
I
it.
don't.
I'm glad
Yeah, you don't
because
want
I
to.
love Phantom of the Opera and I don't want it
It'll
to be.
ruin it for you.
See, it's better to just watch the recorded stage versions of it.
Yeah, the revival type
Because
stuff.
those are really good.
So here's the last one.
Is it,
It's a good one. It's not
I
Bayformers,
wasn't going to ask that. I was going to ask if
but
it
it's
was...
close for you. Love it or flush it. Standardized college placement tests. Bang! How about that, Carson?
Why is that even a question?
Love it or flush it.
You
Come
know
on.
I'm going to say flush it because they're a waste.
Even with how you did,
Doesn't matter
they're
how
not
I
a
did.
waste of time.
They're so long and boring. I had a girl burping in my SAT room. Did I tell you about that already?
Yes, you told me. You can tell the two audience members.
This girl was burping in the SAT room, belching, not burping, not like a tiny one, belching.
Well, surely you weren't the only one who heard it.
Oh no, everybody would look over there. They'd be like,
I just wanted to throw that in, just to get your fire lit some more. So, but you're done with them.
Testing. That's what you say. You're saying,
Stop
I
saying
think you should go take the December
Fine,
one
you're
too.
gonna take a Bayformers test. How's that?
Oh, I know plenty about them. How bad they are.
Yeah.
And how
Does
worse,
Jazz die?
how they get worse. The thing about the Bayformer films is
God.
they
No.
start bad. This
We're
will
not
take 30
doing this.
seconds. They start
I'm counting.
bad, and they get even worse. Because you start with the first one that's watchable. The first Bayformers film is watchable.
Until Jazz gets ripped.
And
in half.
then you get to The Last Night, which is absolutely unwatchable. Last Night is maybe the worst Transformers piece of fiction ever made. And it's just terrible. And Bumblebee, thank God for Bumblebee.
10 seconds.
Because it's not Bayformers. But yeah, that's it. Bayformers is terrible, and we're going to have to watch all of them.
I'm not watching.
Yes, we are. That's our
No,
next
we're
review
not.
section after we get through
No, it's
Schwarzenegger, everybody.
Well, then I'm just gonna find more Schwarzenegger movies.
No, we're
You're
going
gonna
to
watch Red
Bayformers.
Sonja and Conan the Barbarian and all that.
No.
Next time on this podcast,
Let's watch
whatever
Raw
you call
Deal
it,
again.
we're gonna finish our long. How dare you? We're gonna finish
like Raw
our
Deal.
long ignored finales to the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie review bin with Terminators 1 and 2. We're not
And
gonna do them on.
Salvation.
We're not doing them on this. No, God, he's not
Is
in
that
that.
the one with,
That's Christian Bale.
what are the other ones? Genesis?
Genesis has Schwarzenegger. He's in Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. Salvation, he's not in. I don't remember one in
Salvation's
between.
about, John Connor.
No, Salvation is about Kyle Reese. Yes.
Wait, is Christian Bale Kyle Reese?
No, he's John Connor.
Yeah. It's about John Connor.
Anton Yelchin is Kyle Reese.
Yeah, it's about John Connor.
It's supposed to be Skynet's going after Kyle Reese now
You know what's weird?
because he's John's dad.
John Connor is older than his dad.
Yes, I know that.
And you know what else is weird? I've always thought about this since I watched Terminator 1 for the first time. All the stuff that happens in Terminator is an endless loop.
Yes,
Because
it is.
It's so weird because so Kyle Reese goes back in time and then
he's
dies
just gonna do it
and then
again.
dies after creating John Connor, but then a new Kyle Reese is created in the same timeline, and then there's another John Connor, but then that Kyle Reese goes back in time, creates John, can make sure John Connor still gets created.
You know what
and
you
then
just-
Kyle Reese dies. And
You
then
know what you just summarized? That basically, in way oversimplification, the whole series of Dark on Netflix, the German sci-fi thing that I watched, which I loved, but it was all over the place. I mean, you had to follow it, and it was all these endless time loops, and people doing this and that and the other thing, just cursed to be the same people.
Well, I mean,
over and over.
Terminator's thing is simple. It's just it's an endless time loop. But I guess in every universe, John Connor will beat the machines. So I guess it doesn't really matter. It just happens over and over.
Not if you watch all of them.
Because
but-
you're always gonna have Kyle Reese going back in time. I don't know if he beats the machines.
So
I just assumed
we'll do the first Terminator next time.
if they had
and then the
Optimus
second
Prime, they could beat this Terminator.
one. Terminator. I'm not gonna dignify that.
Let's do Terminator versus Optimus Prime.
Okay, thank you. You know, Peter, what's his name that does the voice? of
Peter
Optimus Prime.
Cullen?
Yes.
How dare you not know
I was
his
going to say
name?
Peter Mullen, but that's one of my favorite
How dare you.
actors who's Scottish. Okay, so we're going to close up. Time for a closing rant. You got anything? 60 seconds or
I
less?
thought I
What do you
already
want to rant
did
about?
mine. Bayformers is
Okay,
terrible.
good. You did do a rant.
You let me do it early.
Yeah, I don't know that I have any more rants.
Oh,
I've
come
ranted
on.
about stuff. I mean, I rant about a lot of things, and
You
it's
talk
just
about
kind of
how our
random.
food was late tonight.
Well, I don't need to rant about that. I mean, I will if I was to rant about anything like that, it's this. And that what I'm ranting about is about, food deliveries. Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, Postmates. I'm leaving a couple out in there, but
DoorDash,
I threw them in there.
Uber Eats,
I said them.
Grubhub.
I said them. You're
I
not
don't know the
listening to
other
me.
ones.
So, uh, Bite Squad, that's another one. Uh, it seems like, I mean, I have nothing but respect for the people, the restaurants who are open during all this, and the people who are delivering through all this. I truly do. That said, I try to tip them well, but it seems like more often than not, especially since the summer. I think when COVID hit for real and those services were basically the only show in town, it's like they were trying harder, which was great. I'm not saying they have to try harder from before the COVID outbreak, but it's like the last 3 or 4 months I've been trying to find reasons to not order because things are just slower. I don't know if that's because people are staffed less or what, but it's like tonight ordering food at 6 and getting it delivered at 7:20 from a restaurant that I could have driven to in 10 minutes. So it just makes me say, why bother paying the fees and the tips and waiting the extra hour to get it? So I've been trying to find reasons to get up off my butt and go get it myself. These are first world problems, to be sure, but it would just be nice if they would sort of say, okay, if we're going to take this long, we're not going to charge you this much. Just because I could have sat in the restaurant, I could have gone in and out of the restaurant twice and ordered this food sit down style and eaten it in that time. So anyway, that's my kind of rant. We've
Adding
eaten
up the
we
timelines.
Yeah, well, we've eaten at some of these restaurants and it's taken like 40 minutes.
Yeah, sometimes it'll take 2 hours though. So
It can, but not typically. So, okay, that's kind of my rant. So,
that is just brilliant work there.
for our two listeners, I hope you enjoy your Sunday listening to this. Right, Carson?
Yeah,
So,
or whatever day
be
you listen
sure
to it.
to tell Carson what you thought of it.
Yeah, be sure to like and comment ideas and subscribe
Yeah,
and all the cool things
because
that
we
you
have two
do.
subscribers. We need more.
I think one of those is me.
And the other's probably me. So, or Uncle Brian. So, yeah.
Come on, you're not even subscribed to your own podcast.
I probably have, but, whatever. I was too busy watching Bayformers.
Oh yeah.
So
Look, I have the DVDs right
I don't
in
want to
here.
look at them. So we appreciate everybody who is listening, and like he said, comment, like, subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks
Goodbye.
for listening. Bye.